ICE tactics in President Trump's immigration crackdown are roiling the country. ICE raids have been relatively infrequent in the North Country compared to cities like Minneapolis and Chicago, LA. But in St. Lawrence County, the sheriff wants to partner with ICE, and some lawmakers and critics have questions. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Pearsall Wealth Management at UBS Wealth Management USA, subsidiary UBS AG, member FINRA SIPC, 1 Broad Street, Glens Falls.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Thursday, January 22nd. First up, there's a debate unfolding about a vacancy on the town council in Malone. The council has so far left a seat unfilled, tilting a 3-2 split on the board to a stronger Republican majority. Critics in the community say the decision is partisan and leaves voters disenfranchised. Our news intern Richard Haller has more.
At Malone's first board meeting of 2026, council members had 2 vacant seats to fill. Democrat Jody Johnston retired and moved to Florida. Longtime board member Paul Walbridge, also a Democrat, died last November. During the meeting, his daughter, Carly Walbridge, told the board her father would have wanted that seat filled.
Regardless of whoever sits in that seat, they have big shoes to fill, and he would want that seat filled.
But the council only voted to fill one of those seats, appointing Republican Andrea Stewart, who had previously retired. The board decided to leave the other seat vacant for the entire year. What remains is a 4-person Republican town council. Malone's last council election was razor thin. Democrat Caitlin Parker lost by a single vote to Republican Brian Taylor. Some advocates and community members say Parker should have been considered for the vacant seat, including Paula King, who spoke in support of Parker at the meeting.
Who actually, if you don't appoint her, it will look like you're disenfranchising 1,021 people in the town of Malone. She lost by 1 vote. She's been present every single meeting. She's an exceptional candidate.
Legally, the town council isn't obligated to fill the empty seat, but people said it should.
Yes. Now, it's totally up to him. Yes. They could appoint her tonight if they wanted.
Right.
Yes,
they could.
We were hoping. We're not going to be bullied or pushed into doing anything. Okay, and if you want to stand up and clap and you start yelling, we can end this meeting right now.
That's Town Supervisor Terry McGuire. Following that community pushback, McGuire said the board is accepting letters of interest and will interview people for the vacant seat.
Obviously, it makes our job easier if we have an extra person.
McGuire said the board chose to leave the seat vacant because they want the next election to be fair.
It would be a partisan decision if we decided to appoint a Republican who was going to run in the fall and give him an advantage.
But people upset by this decision say it's a double standard because the council appointed Stewart, a Republican, to replace a previously Democratic seat, and there's no guarantee that she won't run again. But McGuire is adamant that Stewart won't run in the fall.
She retired. This is the second time she's retired from the town. She wasn't interested in the first place. We basically begged her, asked her, and she didn't want to leave the board and the town in a lurch. She did it as a favor to the town of Malone.
Caitlin Parker, the Democrat who ran for council and lost by 1 vote, submitted a letter expressing her interest in a 1-year appointment on the town board. She said she's most concerned that people's voices aren't being heard in Malone.
So I was sort of ready to just say, okay, that's how it goes. But then the more I started talking to people were really like, well, wait a minute here. They've got someone that, more than 1,000 people voted for, which is pretty good turnout in Malone in like a off-year election. And people personally felt like their votes were being discounted.
McGuire said the board has several options and will review all applicants to decide whether they want to interview anybody for the position. For North Country Public Radio, I'm Richard Haller in Canton.
St. Lawrence County legislators are considering an agreement that would allow the sheriff's department to partner with ICE in certain situations. Catherine Wheeler reports it comes amidst a growing nationwide clash over the Trump administration's immigration crackdown.
The St. Lawrence County Sheriff's Department wants to join U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's 287G program. That allows local law enforcement to train with ICE to perform specific actions under the federal agency's direction and oversight. Chief Deputy Sheriff Leighton Filiatra presented the resolution to county legislators earlier this month.
And the reason that we want to sign into this opportunity is because it offers training to our officers on immigration law, multicultural communication, and also training on avoiding racial profiling. We realize that, this is a big topic right now, but we want to make sure that we're going to handle it correctly in this county.
Tension around ICE's actions have reached a boiling point. Earlier this month, an ICE agent shot and killed Renee Good, a 37-year-old Minnesota woman. That led to hundreds of protests around the country, including several here in the North Country. There are a few models under ICE's 287G program that local law enforcement could be trained under. The department hasn't made clear which ones it wants to participate in. St. Lawrence County Attorney Stephen Button says one option that's been discussed is the jail model. That would train deputies to identify if anyone in custody or incarcerated at the jail may be in the country illegally.
The training on those jail models is largely built around accessing IT resources to be able to understand how to work through the information technology that is afforded to them as a result of ICE's database.
Another model would train deputies to serve administrative warrants on people in jail who ICE believes are in the country illegally. Yet another would allow trained deputies to, quote, enforce limited immigration authority with ICE oversight during routine police duties. Button says he's not entirely certain on what the extent of that could be, but he says St. Lawrence County has signed other agreements to work with federal immigration authorities before.
None of the models that I have seen fully act as a deputization of the local law enforcement to carry out all ICE function. Now, maybe there's a model out there I haven't seen where that's the case, but they are largely a very limited delegation of authority.
ICE covers the cost of the training, and the county can terminate the agreement at any time. St. Lawrence County hasn't confirmed how many employees it would send for training. The idea of local law enforcement working with ICE amid President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown has become highly controversial, and it's a gray area in state law, according to the New York Attorney General's office. In her State of the State address this month, Governor Kathy Hochul received multiple rounds of applause after she said she'll push for stricter rules for ICE in the coming legislative session.
New York will not allow the use of state resources to assist in federal immigration raids on people who have not committed serious crimes.
According to ICE, 8 New York counties and 3 municipalities have 287G agreements in place. The New York Times has reported that the New York Civil Liberties Union is suing Nassau County over its agreement, arguing it, quote, violates state law, undermines protections against unreasonable search and seizure, and promotes racial profiling. At the St. Lawrence County Legislature, a couple of lawmakers raised concerns about the resolution. Margaret Haggard is a Democrat who represents Potsdam. At the legislative meeting, she says she wants more answers on what this agreement would look like in practice at the department, but she's skeptical.
I just overall find the entire thing xenophobic, but you know what side of the aisle I'm on, and I just tend to don't really appreciate how this whole situation's been handled nationally. But I would hope that if this were approved, it would be done, as you mentioned, in a St. Lawrence County manner.
Republican legislator Joseph Lightfoot represents parts of the towns of Oswegatchie, Morristown, and Canton. He says it's another tool for law enforcement to keep the community safe.
Getting people with criminal histories that are in the country illegally into custody and out of the country. And I think that is the smart thing to do.
The legislators will vote on the resolution at their full board meeting on February 2nd. Community activists have said they'll be in attendance and are organizing people to speak out against the resolution. Catherine Wheeler, North Country Public Radio.
More news at ncpr.org. Music today by Mark Corey of Watertown and Danny Thomas of Canton. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.